1. No. Welcome back, everybody. It's been a long time.
Should have left you without some dope shit to step to. Remember that song?
I sure don't. Who is it?
Oh man, it was I think it was Missy Elliott and like Timbaland.
I'm only 24, so
this
is probably before my time.
No man, this was in the 90s, man. The golden era. The golden era of music.
Golden era.
Yeah, man, it's been a long time though.
It has been a while.
So what was our last show?
Well, we spoke to Chris Wallace, who was running for District 11 and unfortunately did not win.
Board,
he just missed it.
Just missed it. The school, man, District 11, like, completely flipped. Yeah. They're about to kill the equity plan. Yeah. The whole shit is out the window, bro. Like,
see what happens when you don't vote.
Administrators are, like, about to leave. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what he's doing, but trust me, they fucked that all the way up. I'm really mad about that, man.
Well, but at least they'll stop the illegal sex trafficking that's happening in our schools.
Oh, yeah.
Where they're just apparently taking kids out of our schools to
go,
like, sell them
put them on buses and
in those tunnels where they like suck on their blood to become young or whatever.
Yeah, man.
It is. Like, that's
so okay. Seriously though, motherfuckers need to vote seriously, man, because like that kind of thing. There's more people that would be like, huh, and listen to that than.
Right, that's
right. Hey,
right.
voting day is such and such and such is topics of this. You know what I'm saying?
I just wanted full disclosure. None of that's true, guys. I was joking.
It was like that is not even close to what's happening anywhere. Well, maybe somewhere, but not there though. Yeah, man. So
and like those are small numbers too. The school board races, it's small numbers. Like 15 people could have like
flipped the whole thing.
Totally.
Turn the whole thing around. You know what I'm saying? So we just got to get it together as a community, really, because we had community members that were trying to get signatures to get on these boards, and couldn't get enough signatures or didn't get it in time. Like there's all kind of things where we got to organize this shit and get this wheel rolling at the same time. What I'm saying?
Yeah,
doing
the problem is
thing.
they have just came out like all those school groups. They had so much money pouring into them, the right-wing groups all over the country to get into these school board races. You know what I'm saying? And like we don't have the money, but we got hella people.
We don't. Yeah, they got helicopters.
We got hella people.
We got hella people, and that's what we need to use them, man. We need to use, and we need to use ourselves. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Is like, how do we organize that part of this shit? Because the talking and go vote in the what's it called? The rock the vote.
No, that's like, some 90s shit right there.
Yeah, like get out of here with that shit. Like nobody's
go out,
doing
boots on the ground.
Yeah, like bro, let's get what'd you say? We need to get a voting box in front of the center over there. Yeah. We need to do shit, man. So anyway, that's not even what we came to talk about.
That's not what we're talking about. That's just something we have been talking about. Maybe we should have talked about that. We've been talking.
That's what we said. We should just have a camera and cut it on sometimes, because we be having dope conversations, especially with Steph on yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
That was dope.
If only we had cameras that we carried around with us in our pockets so we could just
go
access,
live on stuff. Maybe it would work.
In the future, we could have something
I feel like we're close to that. Like, technology is getting there. So anyway,
today,
what's happening?
Yeah, we're coming to you live from the Just Cause jail cell.
Jail cell.
It looks a lot like Just Cause Studios.
Yeah, it looks like the what's it called? We're getting the what happens when the rich people get in trouble and they got to do a video? The disposition.
The deposition. Yeah, we're being deposed right now.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
No, we're talking today because I think everybody that watches the show already knows this, but because police departments are ridiculous.
Right. The fucking pigsties.
Yeah,
pig
exactly.
pens.
But they have all the money, they have all the power, so they can send undercover cops, they can send plainclothes and spy on people that are exercising their First Amendment rights.
Right, yeah. And like they can utilize the resources that the people cultivated against the people to lock them up and throw away the key. There was a whole lot of stuff. I guess we'll get into it, but man, it's really crazy.
That reminds me though. How you doing, Sumi?
Hey. See you. Watching me, buddy. Oh man, I almost called you a word. Anyway, this guy Sumi, man. Golly, dude. You know how like shit just comes out of my like really hateful shit. Now it almost happened again.
We'll have to have, if anything like that happens, we can always have Les beep us out.
Yeah. Les got good with
Got
that
a 5-second delay.
Yeah, potty mouth.
But
Anyway,
we want to talk about there's it's happening today in Colorado Springs. It's happening all around the country. Police are infiltrating groups. They're fucking with groups. They're destroying groups.
They're
trying to destroy groups.
Well, I guess they are successful.
But there's a long history of this.
Yeah.
Is the problem.
That's why they do it, because it works.
Yeah, exactly. They know.
And they get away
with
it.
Yeah, exactly. So, it goes all the way back. I was just talking earlier, like, in Tsarist Russia, they had secret police infiltrating, like, anarchist groups and socialist groups. And here we are in 21st century Colorado Springs.
In Tsarist.
Colorado Springs. Czar Southers.
Yeah, Czar Southers has his freaking secret cops all over the place, man.
Watching us.
Yeah, anyway, like literally all through history this has happened. And we're here in lowly Colorado Springs, handing out groceries,
That's
marching.
the worst part.
Yeah, like that is the
Remember
worst
Monica
part
Karen?
of it. Monica Karen, the cops came, he was putting his gloves on like he was about to whoop our ass. Yeah, and I told him I was ready to fight his ass. But anyway, yeah, man, so, all of these things happen, and it's effective, right? Because look at us, because we're still out here.
Yeah.
Can't
stop.
Roe versus Wade is being challenged right now.
Oh, my God.
In the courts, as we speak.
We should have a show about that, actually.
Yeah, man. We should, dude.
I think.
What? Who's this? Who the hell's talking over here?
Talking about Roe.
Jesus?
I think at this point, country gets what they deserve at this point.
Oh, damn. All right, by the way, this really cynical person over here is Alex.
Let's look at Roe v. Wade right now, real quick. Let's look at Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
2010, I believe it was. 2010, no, more like 2012, I think it was, after Obama's second election. He summoned Ruth Bader Ginsburg into his office.
In a pentagram.
And he said, you're going to retire now because you have pancreatic cancer. You're literally the oldest person to ever have survived that long with cancer, that type of cancer, and you're going to die. You need to resign. You need to resign where I could be your replacement. She said no.
So,
a few months later, he did it again. Called her in, said, you need to retire. You're fucking, you just got out of the hospital. You're dying.
I didn't know that happened.
And she refused to do it.
Yeah.
So the reason that Roe v. Wade is likely going to be overturned falls right into the lap of Ruth Bader Ginsburg's ego.
Yeah, that's true.
And I say that as somebody who respects the work that she's done in the past, but that was totally short-sighted and largely wrong for her to do that. And I think some of the supporters need to think about that, and some of her family members should be a little ashamed.
Wow, damn.
God.
You know what?
Les, drop the bomb, Les.
We're gonna have to bleep that out. You cannot disrespect Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Family, dude. Oh my God.
I respect her. I don't respect that decision.
Yeah, I know that makes sense. Yeah, I didn't know that happened.
Damn. See, this is what you get with like insiders.
Yeah. So I got it. What do you say to that? What the fuck? Yeah, that is okay. So you're saying that if she would have resigned back then or retired, she would have been able to. Someone would still be there to defend it.
Her replacement, at least, wouldn't be a conservative, anti-Roe person.
Right. Because in reality, he was kind of right. Like her time was coming to an end.
Everybody knew she was dying.
Yeah.
No, she has the record for the longest person ever lived with pancreatic cancer. Because it kills you like in weeks. My aunt had it. She was dead like in 4 months.
Oh wow.
But like had the best healthcare in the world.
Right.
And I guess she had a pretty positive disposition. Like she enjoyed work and stuff. So.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then I would honestly say that's the first bad thing I've ever heard about Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Like, it doesn't surprise me, though, to be honest.
Yeah. It does.
She had an ego.
I wouldn't have even looked at it as a bad thing then, but now you're right. Like the effects of that, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I see it. So, so anyway, Alex, what's up, bud?
We didn't actually bring Alex on.
We didn't bring him on, man.
Talk about Ruth Bader Ginsburg's family.
So Alex is a board member at the Chinook Center.
He's also fellow co-instructor with me
up at the university.
Yep,
man.
Fellow UCW member too. We're repping today.
Repping the workers. Yeah. So So Alex, we wanted to talk about COINTELPRO and the stuff that we were talking about with the history of the cops being pigs, and we know that you're a subject matter expert there. We call that the SME.
Yeah.
SME.
A lot of people don't realize that COINTELPRO got its tentacles into Colorado, into Colorado Springs, and particularly into Denver and Boulder, where most notably the COINTELPRO efforts ended with them essentially blowing up the Crusade for Justice building that is now around the Auraria campus in downtown Denver. And then later on, having 3 car bombs go off targeting activist students in CU Boulder. Refer to them as Los 6 de Boulder. They were the 6 students who died. Every single one of those individuals that were killed were either tied to student government or tied to an occupation that was taking place on campus at the time, trying to demand Chicano rights. Man. So this is a really rich history that's happening in our own backyard and continues to happen today. I think it's very important to point out that when people were arrested at that protest in July, pretty much everyone that was arrested were black men. So this kind of racism is just still going on in our backyard. I'm sure the FBI is still involved in things in our own backyard, but just COINTELPRO alone, they were in charge of largely halting the Chicano movement in Colorado.
Maybe we should take a step back since we're not talking about, what is COINTELPRO? What the heck is COINTELPRO, Alex?
Okay, yeah. So COINTELPRO is short for the Counterintelligence Program, and it was an organized effort by the FBI beginning actually in the late 50s to keep tabs on activists or public enemies, as J. Edgar Hoover would call it, keeping tabs on them and trying to infiltrate leftist organizations throughout the civil rights movement and the anti-war movements of the 60s and 70s. And essentially, one of their many tactics is they would have agents infiltrate the organizations, cause a lot of infighting within the organizations and a lot of distrust where the members are always looking over their shoulder and worried about what's going to happen next. And this brings a community, this drives a community apart, and it certainly drives an organization apart. And historically, it's worked really well to end movements. And if that means didn't work for them, they're not above just going in and killing their leadership.
Well, and I think that's a good point, because I think a lot of people, when they think of police repression, we want to imagine that it's oh, look at these other countries, the police are out in the streets shooting people or whatever. And it's well, that
happens here.
It does happen here, but in some ways, the U.S. is better at it than that, because that, if you have police out in the street opening fire on protesters, then people get worked up about that. Right. But if you just have people infiltrating organizations to spread whisper campaigns hey, so-and-so is sleeping with so-and-so, that's a great way to destroy an organization.
They did that to MLK. Yeah. They tried to get MLK to commit suicide, he was cheating on his wife and all kind of stuff they were doing. But
But it's important too, because even the founding of the FBI back in the early 20th century, had to do with bank robbers as well, but really came out of these early, what we call red squads now. So Chicago had one of the first red squads came out of the Haymarket incident. The Haymarket affair, where anarchists organized for an 8-hour workday, and the Chicago Police Department was we need to do something about these folks. But at the same time, you had other militants around the country, militant anarchists and socialists, and we didn't really have anything in this country that was tracking those folks. So you had these red squads that started, but you also had the formation of the FBI was basically, their goal was to neutralize anarchists and socialists. And they formed around
real activities happening. They bombed Wall Street.
Right.
Anarchists aren't what they're looked at as today during that time. They were a direct threat to the American representative democracy. and like they were actively doing shit like blowing up on Wall Street.
The insurrectionists killed judges. Hey, no, I'm not gonna say that there was.
Woody Harrelson's dad was a mob hitman who killed a federal judge.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. But yeah, so the history of the FBI, the founding of the FBI. I can't remember right now what the precursor to the FBI was called, was basically to neutralize leftists. And they did the same things, that we see a lot of times today, is that they isolate them as like, oh, these people are different, they're no good. Yeah. Back then it was like, oh, they're all immigrants. All these anarchists are immigrants. And they had like old cartoons and stuff too, where like they would make them look like apes or something to like dehumanize them, right? Mm-hmm. So it's been this long-standing tactic, and then when you get Hoover getting all this power,
right?
Yeah.
Well, and just said too that the reason that we know about this counterintelligence program, COINTELPRO, is because in 1971, a group of student activists led by a professor. They found their local FBI building, and in the middle of the night, they broke into it and stole all the files.
Bravo!
And just in that one FBI office in some no-name city in like the Midwest, Media, Pennsylvania, which is like a no-name city, which tells you how deep this counterintelligence program went, because they were able to find these documents in the middle of nowhere. Sorry, people from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that was you guys both hit on it. Like they were like trying to protect. Matter of fact, the FBI director, God, I'm trying to think of the video. I think his name was Clarence Kelly. He said that the FBI would have been derelict if they wouldn't have protected the fabric of our society with this shit. You know what I'm saying?
And
like
that's what they always. It's like
we
these
protected
people are tearing apart
exactly.
America. Yeah,
man. So, what they did is they criminalized dissent, like wherever you're from, they criminalize that shit. Like, you're not here. You're you know what I'm saying. You're an ape, or you're whatever the hell these things are. So they just making it okay to just go whatever it was if it was the 1800s, to shoot you in the middle of the street, or to blow your cars up, and who knows what happened, or to just pass your wife a note and say your husband has a baby in whatever in Wisconsin or some shit. Yeah. So like, it's totally fine for that shit to happen, because they're still doing it now. They're still doing it right now.
I was just looking at the numbers too, actually, from the Chicago Red Squad, from when they started to when they were. Like the city was like, okay, we can't do this anymore because all this, in the 60s and 70s, all these started coming out. Chicago Police Department had files on 117,000 Chicagoans that were participating in leftist, organizations, and 14,000 organizations.
Yeah, I took a note. I said that they tried to make it look like activists are a danger to the police and the community, and just dangerous in general. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So. Exactly. How many was it?
117,000 and 141 out-of-towners.
I mean, that has to be at least like a quarter of the city, right? I mean, at least
especially
some portion of the city. Yeah, back then, right? So like, God damn, really, you got to do, that is what you have to do, right? To have control of all of these people, is to find something that you could have on 100,000 people. You know what I'm saying? Because out of those 100,000 people, they found somebody selling dope. They found somebody, with tax evasion and frauds and all of this shit. So they probably were able to bribe folks or whatever, all kind of shit. They turn people into informants, all kind of things. The Chesters and shit, they send them into the organizations and whatever. All kind of things happens. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, man.
Which, by the way, if you guys haven't seen Judas and the Black Messiah, you should watch it. It's like it does a really good job of capturing this in a very short period of time or whatever.
I showed it to my class.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's crazy. So the people, I want to get back to kind of how audacious it was that the COINTELPRO files even got stolen and got released to the media. Like, they literally broke into the FBI field house and picked the lock, used a crowbar, filled up suitcases of files, and fucking bounced.
Yep. And cased it first ahead of time.
Yeah.
Sent one of the girls in dressed as a potential intern.
That's right. Yeah.
Who was like, And the FBI agent was flirting with her, and while he was flirting, she got a good look at the layout.
All of this shit, yeah. It was
because
crazy. And so they
first,
planned it during. They planned to break in during the Ali Frazier fight, so that like they knew everybody would be tuned in.
Yeah, security's not watching the cameras; they're watching Ali.
See, and you know what? Here's the thing.
And an Ali fight, then there's nothing we can compare it to.
No,
it was
maybe the Super, but
like the world kind of just stopped and everybody watched it. Yeah.
But you know what? Good for those guys.
Hell yeah,
those people are heroes.
I wrote their names down.
Yeah. What are their names? Let's just give them a shout out. Even though
so
I don't
the
know
guy
if they're still alive.
Yeah, well, I think the guy that thought up the plan, his name was William Davidone. Okay. I think he's dead.
I think he's dead. The rest of them are alive.
Bonnie and John Raines were two that are alive.
Bonnie was the one who dressed up.
Yeah, and then Keith Forsyth was another one. I guess there were 3 other ones that weren't in this interview, but then they didn't say their names either. They just said their professions.
There was one that
so
bailed,
they might not have wanted to be,
and that caused a lot of stress.
I could understand why somebody might be a little sketched out about breaking into an FBI office.
And then what it did, the things that it caused, like, could you imagine? And they never found out. They said that the FBI had like a list of 7 people that they thought it could have been, and one of those 7 was one of the people that did it. But the rest
shows you how bad their intelligence is.
Well, exactly. And Hoover lost his shit. Like he had just conniption fit over what was on. He sent hundreds of agents to the town.
Yeah.
Like the town started making fun of them.
200 agents on
Yeah, in a little town. And, like there's pictures from a fall festival and there's people selling framed photographs of undercover cops. Like these are the cops, we know you're here.
Oh my God, that's funny. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Sue me. We're gonna make you famous, dog.
And others.
Man, we can't.
Yeah. That's okay.
Oh, man. Anyway,
framed photos.
Yeah, you guys pay attention. So anyway, COINTELPRO was the reason the FISA court was birthed. Did you guys know that?
Oh, really? Because they felt like they needed some additional. But the FISA court's a joke now too.
Yeah, exactly.
They just,
that's what made me laugh. I was like, wait a minute, that's some funny shit. That's what replaced it or whatever was made to. They made that to oversee the intelligence community or whatever. And
that's hilarious.
See how that worked out.
Well, and when Congress found out about this, they actually wrote policy to change this and say, like, you guys can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
Which just, the FBI is not going to stop being the FBI. Is the problem.
Yeah, well, I was surprised, man. There was one director, I can't remember his name now, William something, but he was like, COINTELPRO, we're out of the business of that kind of shit at the FBI now. We don't do that anymore. And he dismantled the whole.
Yeah, they were forced to dismantle it too.
Yeah, and I guess so. And they kind of gave him credit for that.
But I think there is I'm sure that new FBI. Nobody wants to be the next J. Edgar Hoover. No, you know what? I'm sure
maybe they do.
Why do they
want
to
be the next king?
Yeah.
They need to take his name off that building, dude. He's
a horrible monster.
Horrible person.
People have been saying that for many years. You got to take his goddamn name off that board because it's an embarrassment.
Because what they did was they were going after people that were like, hey, things are a little messed up. Do you think maybe we could change them?
Yeah. No. Boom.
Yeah, exactly.
like literally like, pop, pop. They're fixed. We get rid of you.
Exactly.
Yeah, man. I can't stand fucking cops, and they're the reason why, man.
All the way to local cops, all the way up to the top. FBI, CIA, see you later.
Even the operator that calls and talks to the pigs, like, I hate you too. Everybody, all of y'all. They
always kind of fuck shit up too.
Yeah.
I feel like they're the one giving a lot of bad information.
Yeah. Well, I guess I can't say I hate you. My sister's one of them.
Wow.
Yeah, she works with pigs, dude. I all the time. I swear to God, I think
you should take that back now.
No, I don't. She knows. I told her that I can't stand that you go to a pigsty every day. It is ridiculous, and I can't wait for her to get
she's a 911 operator?
Yeah.
Or a police dispatcher? Is there a difference? I think there's a difference, right?
I don't know. She answers 911 calls.
Okay.
My aunt was a 911 operator.
Yeah, I don't hate your aunt either.
But they could be trained to not send cops more frequently.
Right. So that is one thing that she said. She was like, well, you got to think about it. Like, I stop a lot of bullshit from happening. She tells me. She's like,
I'm probably how many Karens are like, I need the police out here immediately.
Yeah.
No,
so
you don't need the police.
Yeah, exactly. So she I don't know, does their thing or whatever. So I'm like, all right, whatever, dude. Because then I thought about what's the dipshit that lied on Devon and shit, the guy.
Yeah.
And like, that person could have figured that out, you know, instead of saying, basically that person was like, yeah, go get him, go get him, go get him, you know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Like, couldn't wait, they were cheering the cops on to go do that shit.
Yeah, totally. Well, so Alex, part of the reason we brought him in here is because he can talk about COINTELPRO and how it's like affected, you know, Colorado specifically, which I don't think we've given this lecture. Actually, Alex just gave this lecture in one of our classes, and a lot of our students were like,
didn't even know.
Like, jaws dropped. They didn't know about any of this, especially the fact that it was like happening here in Colorado, and the level of like violence and just like.
Oh yeah.
So Alex, when we're talking specifically about like Ricardo Falcone and the whole group there, right? What were they working on, and why were they trying to stop them? Do you know that part?
So Ricardo Falcone, he emerged in the Boulder area during the Chicano movement. And he was an employee of the university. And as an employee of the university, he was more and less, him and one other person were more or less involved, the Mexican American Student Union up at CU at the time. Now,
this was like the late 60s, right?
This would have been the 70s, early 70s. But yeah, he's in charge of the Mexican American Student Union, and the Mexican American Student Union emerged as being the most radical of all the student groups. Also, because of the Migrant Action Program that took place years prior, you went from, I think like it was 150 Chicano students to over like 1,500 in just one semester. So you had this inundation of first-time students who have never really been anywhere except having to pick potatoes. They're now up here at school getting an education, and Ricardo Falcone was really the key person who organized them. And for instance, there was a greater Chicano movement taking place at the time. We've all heard of Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers. A lot of these students that went up to CU Boulder were sons and daughters of migrant workers like that. So they had some involvement in some of the labor strikes that were going on. Their families definitely had some involvement. So being up in Boulder, they didn't really know what to do. You know, they wanted to get involved. They want to help their families and be in accordance with Cesar Chavez and stuff. What can be done here? Well, CU kind of did it for them. Just like 1 or 2 years after the Mexican American Student Union was created and the Migrant Action Program was created, President Nixon came into office, and he immediately started to gut all this stuff. And it removed scores of brown and black kids from public colleges across the world. So this is where it's important. I always say, like, elections do matter. Like, they might not always matter in the way you think it will, but like this stripped a lot of people of education just having Nixon come into office.
Right.
But Ricardo Falcone, being kind of the leader that he wasn't going to go quietly. He said this wasn't appropriate. They can't be withholding our student funds, so we're going to occupy the quad. And you know what? The Black Student Union's going to be with us in solidarity. Well, it worked. They caved. They gave them their year of funding. And then the next year, they started refusing funding to the Black Student Union. So Mexican American Student Union and the Blacks coalesced again, and they caved, but they also fired Ricardo Falcone and another guy who was involved, and then they put in a puppet president to be in charge of Mexican American Student Union. So at that point, that's when the Mexican American Student Union decided to go occupy a building on campus. It was called Temporary Building 1, TB1. And they occupied TB1 for, I think it was like 40 days. You had FBI snipers on the campus buildings pointed at them. You had extra cops called in from Denver.
And this is all over tuition, right?
Yeah, so that they could get tuition because they were like
because they're poor.
It's just
sons and daughters
capitalist
of
money.
Workers.
They're occupying Temporary Building 1 because They're not receiving their student funding that they were promised as part of the Migrant Action Network, and this ends their education, sends them back to San Luis Valley or wherever they came from, unless they can quickly come up with a buttload of money that we don't have. So they're occupying because of that, but they're also occupying because their biggest advocate, Ricardo Falcone, is now removed. So those were equal parts of importance of why they occupied temporary building 1.
It wasn't even a permanent building.
It was a temporary building.
It's still there, and it's still called temporary building 1.
Really? Oh, damn, I want to go to that, man. We need to go to that.
They have a monument.
Every year they have a like a remembrance. You walk to the building, and you walk to the different sites.
Oh yeah, we should go to that. That would be dope, man. Yeah. So, what happened to these guys? So, you know, if we kind of like go, what happened at the end there?
Ricardo Falcone, he was involved in a lot of stuff that went beyond the university in terms of activism. So, temporary building 1 is about to be occupied. He's been fired already. He's also involved in the National Chicano Rights Conference, which is kind of like the Democratic National Conference, you know, except for the Chicano movement at the time. And to give you a little bit of an example of like how important Colorado was to this, it was held in downtown Denver, I think 2 times, and then it was held in Texas after that. So like the fact that we held one of those conferences shows how involved a lot of the people that lived here were in this movement. But in '72, I think it was, Falcone and a friend of his, they were driving to El Paso to go to this Chicano Youth Conference. He was a delegate in that conference. And somewhere around Oro Grande, New Mexico, his car overheats, and he goes into the gas station, asks that gas station attendant for some water to cool off his car. And I guess he says something along the lines like, we don't waste water on Mexicans here. And like, he was then shot by the guy. Ricardo Falcone.
Shot by the gas station attendant.
Like some kind of like squabble ensued, and Ricardo Falcone walked out, shot 4 times, and collapsed.
I didn't know that happened.
Gas station attendant also shot a black professor in Colorado Springs in 1971. And the guy was found not guilty. Crazy.
Imagine that.
The police, New Mexico, they pronounced Falcone dead. They never did a full examination. The guy that shot him, his name was Perry Brunson. He was acquitted for murder because he had ties to the FBI as an informant. Also, we have it on very, very good evidence that he was a far-right organizer with the KKK.
Wow.
Perry Brunson.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Like, I mean, I knew that the guy killed him at the thing, but I didn't realize that his car broke down.
Yeah.
That's why he was there. That's crazy, man.
So, which brings us to his wife at the time. She's still around and she's still an activist. Her name is Priscilla Falcone. She was one of the people who was elected to student government, one of the first Latinas to ever be elected to student government, and she was involved in all the activism, the temporary building 1 stuff. She is now a professor at UNC Greeley, and she's a very dynamic woman. She's a lot of fun to talk to. But I've gotten a chance to have dinner with her a few times, and she's still not allowed at NCU campus. She's like a little old lady now. But she told me the story that she was going up to a conference that she was speaking up at CU, and she was en route in the car, and the college called her up and said, "You can't come. You should just turn around." And this was like 4 or 5 years ago.
It's crazy, right?
So she's still officially banned from campus.
Damn.
The term Chicano is still officially banned from campus.
Are you serious?
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
What?
Yeah, and
man, they need some activism up there.
And yearly, the Mexican American Student Union is always in peril of getting their funding stripped.
Still to this day.
To this day, absolutely.
Huh.
the way I like to put it, and this could really go for UCCS, is the universities are very aware of offending their white donors.
Right. Yeah, totally.
So they'll do anything to not offend their white donors.
And can you explain a little bit too, about the Safe Stay Boulder? I think a lot of people have never heard of that. I know I hadn't heard it for until fairly recently, actually.
Yeah. So the occupation of temporary building 1 on CO Boulder campus was going on. I mentioned that during that time, the city was inundated by FBI, extra police officers from Denver and elsewhere. They had helicopter even, I think. So it was a crazy time for Boulder. Had never seen that kind of military police presence. It's a hippie town, this was totally unnecessary. Yeah.
Right.
Also, there were several boycotts going on at the time in accordance with Cesar Chavez and his movements. Boycotts of wine, Safeway, and California grapes and Coors. So outside of campus, you had a lot of upheaval taking place. If you wanted to go to the liquor store, they would only let you in one at a time. There's big lines to get the liquor store. And that's because at one point, Ricardo Falcone and some other people went to the liquor stores or bar and took all the Coors. Dumped out all the Coors.
Stole it and poured it in the street.
Yeah, but life was really changed during this period of time with all the FBI agents and stuff. So during that period, a lot of the Chicano activists, it's scary. You know how it's scary, yeah. So you kind of stick together.
Yeah.
And they already kind of lived together in their student housing, so those were their friends. They hung out together. They did things together.
Mm-hmm.
So during this period, being that it was so scary, many of them were together, and that left an opportunity for somebody who we still don't know who it is, likely somebody associated with COINTELPRO and the FBI, to set 3 car bombs in the trunks of 3 well-known activists. One of them went off and there was nobody in the car. However, 2 of other ones went off almost in sequence. Oh no, one day after another they went off. And in those cars they killed 6 individuals, all of which were local activists, including the president of CU, Chicana Student Government. So you had her, you had legal people who were helping around the state with legal actions, people who were getting arrested and stuff. They were killed. It was a really horrific scene, especially for Boulder, to have a car bomb like that happen. It was also pretty gruesome. They were exploded, so there was pieces of activists all over the parking lots. They never did a proper investigation. They left flesh at the scene of the crime. I know people today that still have pieces of the cars because you could just go in and pick up stuff and leave. Later on, there was a civil suit, and the civil suit deemed the investigation that took place after the bombings as, quote, racist. But
shocking.
Yeah, but because the FBI holding facility burned in Topeka, Kansas in 1981, the documents that we would have on Colorado Chicano movement are gone.
Convenient, perhaps? I don't know. Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
But yeah, it is crazy that we have so much. There is so much that happened in Colorado, and the in Denver, you talked about the what was the name of the place again? The community center.
Crusade for Justice.
Yeah, Crusade for Justice was blown up or burned down.
It was blown up.
Right.
It was. What took place there, so the Crusade for Justice was a pretty awesome place. It's kind of like Chinook Center, except way bigger. Like it had
what? No, it's not. This fucking guy.
It had like dance studios. They do plays. They would do there's like a cafeteria, churro shop, legal services. There's a school operating in there. Just a full service community center for anything you might need. The cops hated it.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
Huh. So one day, a guy was coming out of the community center, and he got stopped for jaywalking by a cop.
It's almost like they have the exact same
like
MO, just over time.
It's like they looked up a YouTube video and was like, let's do that.
Yeah, and
jackasses.
And the guy who was jaywalking somehow, we don't know how, ended up dead.
For jaywalking.
For jaywalking. So a shootout broke out between the Quick Crusade for Justice buildings and the police. And according to Corky Gonzalez, who was there, the police grenaded the apartment building that was next to it that was also part of the crusade. So they blew it out. And then they demolished it and they built CU Denver there, Auraria campus. Good real estate.
I remember hearing about. I would like to know more about that. Like it's crazy that. So one that is striking that there's so much shit that's happened in Colorado as far as activism. And we talked about it. Some of the things like back in the day. Even there was 100 Black Men organization here. There's all kind of
Okay, that's cool.
But though, just to think about. What this guy Clarence Kelly said, that they would have been derelict if they wouldn't have protected the fabric of our society, right? So they were doing that to the Chicano movement here, and of course, and that was just a small. It was a small place. It was even smaller than it is now, but in larger cities across the country, they were doing that. With Cesar Chavez and the farm workers movement, but. There was also the Native Americans had a social justice movement happening at the same time in the 60s.
Who they targeted here in Colorado, too.
Right, that's exactly. So like, and then of course the one that everyone talks about is the Black Panthers. So the white government was like, you people, we're gonna fucking stomp you out.
Yeah, you guys are tearing up the fabric of society.
Right.
By your mere existence.
We're gonna bomb you. We're gonna shoot you. All of these things. We're gonna do these things to you. So. When you challenge, like this whole place, this country was founded off of racist bigotry, right? And when you challenge that, like you're challenging what this place is. You know what I'm saying? So yes, that is what happens.
You sound like you're teaching CRT right now.
Whoa, it's a good thing I'm not at D49. Shit, get fired over there for that shit. Totally. So anyway, what I'm saying is, there's a reason why our police forces want to be so huge. They want what's the portion of the budget? A third of the budget. They want all of this money so that they can control these things, right? So that they have the means and the ability to not even let it become powerful enough where they have that whole community where the Chinook Center is a apartment complex and a churro shop and all of these things. Like they don't. By
the way, that's the next step for the
that really
we're fucking. Yeah, I mean, I was instantly thought of the People's Kitchen. Like it's not better than the People's Kitchen, but cool. You know
Wings
what I'm saying?
And churros.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, man, I just I want people to pay attention to, or not pay attention, because it's already all happened, but just kind of look at this shit and break down and for yourself and see that it's not different. It could be black and white pictures, voiceover, documentaries and things like this. But this shit happened in 1972, in 1960 something.
Still alive.
Right, the ladies here. You know what I'm saying? Like this shit is not. It's not even close to hitting the full revolution. You know what I'm saying? So,
and it's not dead because we know. So back when I was just getting into activism in the early 2000s, it came out that the Denver police had spy files too, just like the Chicago Red Squads that they've been collecting since the 1950s.
On people.
Yeah, and they had files.
You think we're in that?
Well,
they're not allowed to do it.
I actually happen to know that we were in that.
I was going to say, you guys are in
because the Colorado Springs Police Department also participated in the Denver spy files, and they also participated with the Joint Terrorism Task Force back then. And this was all exposed, and for Denver got in trouble. The Denver Police Department got in trouble. They had to release the files. They're all in the Denver Public Library now, so if you guys are interested, you can go look them up. We looked up, the files were available briefly. I looked it up. I was at a protest, an environmental protest once here in Colorado Springs. There we go. My license plate's in the Denver spy files now.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and it hasn't gone away though. So, Denver, they had to change their policies. Like, you can't spy on people doing First Amendment protected activities.
Right.
The problem was Colorado Springs was doing the exact same thing, but they didn't get in trouble for it because they were sharing their intelligence with Denver. So during 2002, 2001, 2002, that era, the police were coming down from Denver to go to peace conferences and collecting information on activists that were going to peace conferences, like little old nuns and shit,
right?
Like from the American Friends Service Committee.
That's what this money, hey, we need more money for this shit, guys.
Exactly.
We need Niski said it. I'm getting this budget, and I'm gonna go get more on the next one too, and he's gonna ask for more the next time too, so that they could do.
Well, and they trick people too, because they're like, well, we need more. They trick people into thinking well, that money is going to pay for more beat cops out on the street to protect, so if your house gets broken into.
Right.
But that's not what they're paying for.
No.
They're paying for apartments for undercover cops. Yeah. They're paying for salaries of undercover cops to infiltrate organizations that are peaceful organizations that are doing nothing more than advocating for different groups, right?
Right.
And they're spending
hundreds
of thousands of dollars
probably
to do this. And Colorado Springs just continues to do it because they've never been held accountable.
Right. Are we going to say it or no?
Well, and that's why everything's they're gonna lose every single thing, because it doesn't matter if you're left or right. It's a fucking waste, and everybody looks at it that way.
And it just happens that in Colorado, and mostly throughout the country, it's mostly leftists. Every once in a while, right-wingers get
even
wrapped up in it.
Even when there's a couple potential Trumpers on a jury box, they're like, this is stupid. You're wasting my time.
Yeah, no, okay. We had to communicate for a second. So anyway, I think that they get the point, right? And another thing is,
I guess we could actually.
It works. That I kind of want to say it works, because it stops shit from happening, man. People get scared.
They do. They don't want.
Right. They don't want trouble. You know what I'm saying? Motherfuckers literally want to help their community. You know what I'm saying? So there's, Anyway.
Yeah. People that find out, we know, because we've discovered this.
Yeah.
People find out that there's undercover cops among them, and they don't want to participate in those organizations.
Right.
And it's not because they're necessarily doing anything bad.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
They're not.
But if you're aware of American history, you're kind of aware of what things they'll do.
That you'll walk across the street and get shot for jaywalking.
Exactly. Or like you said, Martin Luther King, we celebrate him as this wonderful figure today. But back then, they hated him so much, and they wanted to destroy him.
And his family.
Exactly. And J. Edgar Hoover had files on him, and everybody around him, and all the activists back then, right? Yeah, okay.
Killed him.
And you know what? That's true. Martin Luther King was walking in the streets.
Yeah.
But Martin Luther King was literally the epitome of a peaceful activist,
Right.
and they hated him for it.
Yeah.
And they spent millions and millions of dollars to try to delegitimize him and destroy him in every way.
Yeah.
They were never able to get anything except for his first arrest before he was politically active on Malcolm X. He was clean across the board.
Yeah.
Loved his wife, didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And they looked for everything.
So that was what they did there was the opposite.
It turns out he's a good person.
Yeah, they had to go to the other people in the organization and turn themselves again and make them start fighting inside each other, and then that's what happened.
And that's why people get scared of this, because people don't want to be a part of wrapped up into police hijinks,
right? Exactly,
basically, because it is. That's all it is.
Yeah.
But they always. The thing is, though, they always get caught
every time.
I know they think they're not going to get caught,
yeah.
But because they have all these resources, but we got the smarts.
Yeah,
we got the people.
We got the people.
We got the people on the streets.
I'm just gonna tell y'all, man. Like I'm not with this shit. The things that the CSPD did to us, didn't fucking scare me. Like
it's annoying.
And the main reason why is because we're not doing nothing illegal. We're not like whatever the fuck they do, like or want to do. We're not going to get. There's no trouble coming from this, which makes it show how even more fucking pathetic it is that they got people doing the things that they did to us. You know what I'm saying? So
and I don't even
wasting our fucking tax dollars like that, man. It pisses me off, dude. When you look at these schools and you look at our community resource, like we don't have the shit, basic things that these people need to survive out here, and you're paying these motherfuckers to do this dumb shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't. It blows my fucking mind, man.
And they're convincing themselves too that like, and I'm not even just saying like us, because it happens everywhere around the country. These police departments, they're like, these people are so dangerous. They tell stories to themselves, I had batteries in my backpack, remember? And they're like, batteries. Apparently this is a thing among cops that like they use batteries to riot. And I'm like, batteries are used for our PA system. Like, give me a fucking break.
That was in case my mic died.
It's like, but they like cops get themselves fucking worked up into a fucking froth.
They think they're in a movie.
Like, exactly.
They think they're in a damn TV show or some shit. Yeah, man.
But they tell themselves these stories for generations. I remember too them being like, protesters fill up balloons full of pee and feces. I'm all bullshit.
That's a great idea. Thanks, CSPD.
Yeah, maybe we.
But they always tell these, and so they're scared, and it's like the worst most of these groups are doing is like
handing out groceries.
Handing out groceries. Exactly. Yeah. Like being annoying, but I like being annoying and being a pest is not illegal. Yeah. It's the First Amendment to the Constitution specifically says like. Might be annoying, but it's a right for everybody.
Everybody to do it. Yeah. Speaking of, we're getting long here too, man. The Parade of Lights is tonight.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. All right, guys, we good?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys. This was fun.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Sorry I was late.
All powered. That's a perfect way to end that.
Yep.